Right. I want to begin the rodent presentation by telling you, you need to not go into your kitchen garden early in the morning. You need to go around 10, 11 o'clock when the sun is out, because the leptospiro organisms thrive in the dew from the wetness of the rain and so on. So you need to be careful. I have seen, for those of you who are listening to me, I have seen a number of persons selling cane and dumps at some of these roundabouts. You need to be very careful with that. What we have observed is sometimes you get persons like in the night going and picking dumps, putting them in the bucket, leaving them under the tree, and then the morning they come early and fly down a van. Hey, 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 and get onto the van and go and sell these dumps. You need to be very careful purchasing dumps and cane, because you could catch leptospirosis and even hantavirus. So you need to be very careful. For those of you who have trees, coconut trees, you could invest with some sheet metal, and you place it at least 4 feet off the ground, at least 18 inches in width, so that when the rodents try to go up in the tree, it is very smooth and they will not be able to go up. Last week I mentioned about collecting rodent bait from 7 polyclinics out of 9. The only polyclinic that you will not collect the bait from is Agar Cochrane and the Glebe. This is the bait, brigand bait. You will be able to get 2 packs. And if you're having mice at your premises, my suggestion would be to get the small pet bottles, and you cut at least 3 of them. And you place one by the stove, one by the fridge, and one by the cupboard. Because what happens is a rat will come and eat it belly full one time, one feeding. Mice are very stupid. What do we do? Even though they're getting the same bait, they will nibble at the one by the stove, they go and nibble by the one by the fridge, and then they run nibble by the one by the cupboard. So when they do that, they need to move around to get their full feeding of the bait to kill them. What I did not mention last week, this is baking soda. So for those of you, I mentioned last week about zinc phosphide. That is a very dangerous bait that I said the ministry used to have a fast knockdown, quick knockdown, which take about 3 hours to kill the rodents. This baking soda, one of my colleagues came up with this idea. Don't know where he got it from, but he came up with this idea using baking soda, and the formula is 2 teaspoonfuls of baking soda to 1 teaspoonful of Milo or Ovaltine or baby formula to sweeten it up. And you could put it down just how you would put down the brigand bait. If you don't have the brigand bait, the rodenticide, you could mix the baking soda with the baby formula or Milo or Ovaltine, and it should be dry. And you could place it in the pet bottles, place it by the stove, the fridge, and also by the cupboard in a dry form. And when the rat or the mouse go and consume that baby formula mixed with the baking soda, it actually works like the zinc. It creates a gas within the rodent and stop the rodent from passing air and also from belching, and that works just like it creates what we call farfine gas to kill the rodents. I just want to touch on how you would identify rodents. Rodents are extremely clever and smart animals. So how you identify them is by seeing them. And as I say, if you see them during the day, then you should be more concerned because the sunlight interferes with the eyesight. And they're very active during the night and they see better at night. So in terms of rodent infestation, seeing them, especially during the day, tells you there is rodent infestation. I mentioned last week the droppings. The mouse dropping is rod shaped like a pencil. The droppings of the rattus rat that live in the tree, the droppings are spindle shaped like a banana. And the rat that lives on the ground, the Rattus norvegus, the droppings are capsule shaped. What you should also look for is what we call gnawing marks. There's a distinct pattern when the rat or mouse bites something. There's a particular pattern with the biting. And now that I'm on biting, you should not leave out none of your food stuff. Bread, biscuits, food, exposed during the night. You should place it in your fridge, in your cupboard, or invest in a nice plastic container that is covered. And the first thing you should do, seeing that the rodents may be out in the night while you're sleeping, is to mix some bleach water, at least a half gallon of bleach water with 3 or 4 caps of bleach, and you wipe down your countertops. Another thing you should look for is what we call smudge marks. The rat and the mouse carry oil on the skin. So when they will not walk across a room, if you say there's food in a room, in a corner, they will not walk across the room. What they want to do is walk and have their body on the side of the wall or the partition, so to speak. And while they're doing that, because they want to travel back that same area, the oil goes on the side of the wall and leave a black mark called a smudge mark. We in environmental health, when we are doing inspections of food shops and different areas where we suspect that there is rodent infestation, we use a lamp called a black lamp. It's a UV light which you use to detect rodent urine and counterfeit money. We use that same light to detect rodent urine. So when we turn on that light and we pass it across any areas that we suspect that rodents would have traversed, if the rat had urinated, say around 1 o'clock, 2 o'clock today, the UV light fluoresces blue, a very dark blue. And if the rat had urinated, say around 5:30 this evening, between 5:30 and now, when we spot that light, because the urine is pretty fresh, that light illuminates in a pinkish orange type color, and that's how we detect rodent urine. The sound. When a rat enter, as I say, they're very clever animals. And when a rat enter any space, any building space, the first thing it does, a rat or mouse, is to squeak, 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 squeak. And the reason why it squeak is that when it squeak inside the building and the sound bounce back, when it squeak and the sound bounce back to the ears, it means that there's no clear passage. They cannot proceed further. If the sound don't bounce back, it means that there's a opening a window or something that if you run it, it could get away. So those are some of the things that you could detect in terms of rodent infestation. The polyclinics, as I said, There's a program going on right now. I mentioned last week there are about 13,000 derelict vehicles and about 14,000 dilapidated houses. And the Ministry of Health, in association with the Ministry of the Environment, the Environmental Protection Department at Dalkeith, they're working to eliminate these cars and houses. And the person there is Mr. Danny Ford. And the number is 535 4633 or 4600. 535 4633 or 4600. And you could give him a call anywhere around 2:30 at the Ministry Environmental Protection Department located at Dalkeith by the National Union of Public Workers there in Dalkeith. And what they do, they would come and investigate, and they will place a notice on the house or the vehicle, giving the owner of that vehicle or property 21 days to make some sort of adjustment or alterations to the vehicle or the house. If that is not done, then the Environmental Protection Department then reach out to someone for tender, and then that house is demolished or the vehicles are removed. So that is the program. I've seen a lot of the vehicles being removed. I think just before I leave the ministry, Bees Recycling were coming around and taking up vehicles, but you had to remove the battery and the tires and just leave a shell, and they will collect it and they ship out, I think, about 2 containers per week to countries overseas, so that they could do recycling. So a lot of these new cars you're seeing coming in is actually some recycled material from these vehicles. As I said, these vehicles attract rodents and also attract mosquitoes, and they could cause fires because some of these vehicles are put down with diesel and gasoline in them, and there also is unsightly and also devalue your property. There's a video that I have that sometime we down in the future I will show you, where rodents, a rat could go into a manhole in the road and end up in your toilet. Yes, it could go through the sewage pipes. It could survive when you flush the toilet, survive a lot of water. It could hold its breath underwater for at least 3 minutes. Extremely dangerous. Another thing about rodents is that a rat, someone call you a rat, that's a big insult, because a rat would do anything to survive. And if it have young ones and it's hungry, it would even eat the young ones once it's hungry. Extremely dangerous animals. And as I mentioned last week, hantavirus, you need to mix some bleach water. The stronger you have it, the better. You sprinkle the areas around your doghouse, sprinkle the areas around your premises. If you're storing bottles, you're storing anything in your yard and so on, you need to sprinkle the bleach with the bleach water and leave it for at least 20 minutes before you remove any of the things. And it's better to mop instead of sweeping, because it's when you disturb the dust, which will carry the rat saliva, feces, and urine. Another thing that I want to mention is that it is dangerous sometimes. Rats build nests in trees, and sometimes in trees. And there are some trees that rats go up and build nests. So sometimes it's dangerous for you when the rainfall to shelter under some trees, because obviously with the rain falling and the rainwater going to the nest and so on, you could get the leptospira urine dropping down on you, and so on. So you have to be careful when you're sheltering under trees.
But
Going
can I
out.
ask a question? Somebody's asking if J's fluid. Can you, if you don't have bleach, can you use J's fluid?
Yes, you could use gel, sure, but I tend to, but you have to use a lot. But I tend to like to use bleach.
Bleach is
Bleach
better.
is extremely effective. Um, you know, we what persons don't know is that when I was at the vector unit, part of my job was to send persons overseas that die here in Barbados, and a lot of different homes they use bleach. Bleach is extremely effective in terms of dealing with blood and different tissues and so on.
That's
Bleach,
better.
yes,
So even if you have dogs, and you want to wash down, it's better to wash down. It's more effective to wash down with the bleach than the
with,
J's.
well, with the bleach. You can use a gel soda also, but it's best to use the bleach. And as I said, half gallon of water, 3 or 4 caps of bleach will be effective, and you sprinkle and you leave it there for a while, because you don't want to harm the dog also, you know. And as I said last time, around 5 o'clock, 5:30 in the evening, any food that's left out in the yard, you need to remove it, put in a plastic bag, take it in the house, put it in the garbage. You take the dog pan, both the water and the food pan, and you wash it and you turn it down, so that when the rats come out at night, there's no food for them to eat. Because in 2012, I was quoted on CBC. We did testing for dogs. We did blood testing for 120 dogs, and about 81 tested positive for leptospirosis. And sadly, a
Wow.
lot
So
of them died because when the rat come out and is eating the dog food during the night, it is scared. So while it's eating, it urinate and defecate at the same time. And then when the dog go and consume some of that food, then they also could come up with leptospirosis. So that is my advice for persons who have dogs to remove the food in the evening.
yeah. A question for you though: can other animals? Somebody's saying that you can other animals transmit leptospirosis, like chickens.
Yeah,
And
dogs, pigs, cows, and so on. Um,
chickens.
well, we haven't seen that chickens would have transmitted, but I know dogs and cats and pigs and so on. What I could share with you, um, I know one of my colleagues, a former colleague. He was he was living in the country, and he was walking under a coconut tree on his premises. The coconut came down and hit him on his shoulder,
Mm-hmm.
and within hours he was hospitalized. The coconut came down to the tree, had the leptospirosis, hit him on his shoulder, and made a cut, and he was hospitalized for about a week with leptospirosis from that
What?
coconut coming down out of the tree and striking him on his shoulder. It is when you have the abrasion, and that is why I say if you are going out in the yard, you should have on preferably rubber boots. If you don't have rubber boots, you should not have slippers on. You should wear enclosing shoes. You should, if you're doing gardening, it's best to have on a long sleeve shirt and a dust mask, and you should have on gloves. And as I said, you should not venture out in your kitchen garden until around 10:30, 11, when it's outside is hot. When outside is pretty hot, because the heat kills the leptospiral organism. One of the things that you need to do, crop over is coming up, and when you go to purchase food, we also advise persons to stand up and observe. You should stand up, don't rush and go and buy. You should stand up and observe the practices of persons. Look at whether they have on the hairnet, have on the cap, they shouldn't have on arm out, should not have on a short pants, should not have on slippers, should have on long pants, and so on. They should not even have on strong perfume, because once you're barbecuing and the heat extracts the odor from the strong perfume, and when you buy the hot dog or you buy the chicken, then you have your tongue burning you, because it extract the scent of the strong perfume onto the food to which you're eating. So
Wow.
right. So rodents, as I said, extremely dangerous. As I said, using the baking soda. In terms of the polyclinics, the jurisdiction, as I mentioned, from Hastings to up in Old Bury and St. Philip is Hastings. The number for Randall Phillips Polyclinic Rich Services, that catchment is 536-4314, right up to 4320. That is the Randall Phillips Polyclinic. For those who live between Highgate Hall and Fortescue and St. Philip, 536-4240, right up to 4249. For those who live in the David Thompson catchment, which is St. Joseph and St. John, and a part of St. George is 536-4443. For those who live in the Morris Bay catchment, which is St. James, St. Lucie, St. Peter, and St. Andrew, is 536-3210 or 3214. For those who live in the Brantford catchment, which is from Swan Street to Old Town, it is 536-3719 or 3720. For Winston Scott, it's 536-3469 or 3473. And Winston Scott go from Woolworth to Sheraton in Christchurch. And for those who live in the Eunice Gibson catchment, which is from Eagle Hall to Hillaby, it is 536-4340, right up to 4347.
Are you saying those numbers out of your head, sir?
Right out of my head.
Oh my gosh. That is amazing. And he's retired, That
Right.
is amazing. Folks, this again, you're blowing my mind, because I am sitting here and I'm thinking about, my last question to you is the garden, because I'm
Yeah.
in the garden a lot. And I had some melons. I was growing melons, and then I went and I saw the melons. As soon as I got to like about my fist, something ate them. I assumed it was a monkey. But
I'm very glad you mentioned about
we have 3 minutes, but we can pick this up another time. But go ahead.
yeah,
Yes.
I'm very glad you mentioned about the melons. When you put down the brigand bait,
Yes.
how it kills the rat is that when the rat consumes the bait, the rat has vitamin K in its blood, and the bait depletes the vitamin K and cause the rat to bleed to death. Watch how clever rodents are. If you have melon, cucumbers, parsley, kale, spinach, and the rat eat the bait, those things have vitamin K and replaces the vitamin K in the blood of the rat. And then this bait will not work too well.
Wow.
And also mangoes carry vitamin K. And that is why you have to use if you use the baking soda along with the Milo or baby formula or Ovaltine, then even if they go and eat the green vegetables, they will still die. But the
Oh,
mangoes and parsley and those green vegetables and cucumbers would pose a problem for you. And what you need to do when you put down when you're doing your garden, you should get the PVC pipe and place the bait or the same baking soda during the what we call the hedgerow, during the rows of the kitchen garden. You should put down the bait and to allow them to eat that instead of eating your kitchen garden produce.
wow. This is oh my God. Can you just repeat the last thing you just said, because I got distracted and I want to hear. You said to put down a what instead?
I'm saying that you should get at least a few pieces of PVC pipe, 4 inch or 6 inch, and you get the baking soda. It's cheap. Baking soda is cheap. It's here. Look, available at any supermarket, any hardware.
Yeah.
And the formula is two teaspoonfuls of the baking soda to 1 teaspoonful of the Milo or Ovaltine or baby formula, and you mix it dry and you place it in the PVC pipe along with the same rodenticide, and you place it in what you call the hedgerow in the areas where you're planting your produce, so that they will eat this instead of going to trouble your
Wow.
your watermelons and so on. I remember going in St. Philip and a guy was telling me he could not reap any okras or any watermelons. And I went up there evening with a team and I baited for him in St. Philip. And he about the next 3 weeks or so, he gave me about 10 pounds of okras. Tell me that was the first time that he was able to reap. He was
Well,
able to reap any of the produce because I went up there and baked, and I actually used some of the zinc too, and it killed off all of the rodents, and he was able then to reap his melons and his okras and so on.
wow. Listen. I know we want to go on to other things next week, but Lord, I have you every time. See, whatever you talk about, we follow. We try to follow that. Dave and I, we listen, and then we go on, because I have my garden there, and we want to make sure we're safe in the garden, etc. So thank you so much. As somebody says, fantastic information. Mondays, when it comes to Mondays, it's so much information. Mr. Gaskin, thank you, and we are going to stay in touch. All
Right.
right.
And next time we can look at mosquito control, which is even more interesting.
Yeah, because that is coming up now that that
That will be
rainy
rainy
season.
season. Yes, you're going to have the dengue cases and chikungunya and all these different cases coming up.
Yes.
So I will be grateful to come and speak on the mosquito control, which is even more interesting than the rodent one.
Yes.
Right.
Well, as somebody says here, as you go, Mr. Gaskin is phenomenal with his knowledge and has been helping so many people across the country for years. It's true. And whenever you feel stuck with a problem with the garden, he always has the answers.
Right.
Well,
Yes.
thank you. I got my gloves right there for tomorrow morning, and
Right.
I'm changing. I'm making changes. Okay, I
Right.
am making changes.
Right.
God bless you. Thank you so much, Mr. Gaskin.
And thanks for having me.
It's a pleasure, a real
Okay.
pleasure.
Bye
And
bye.
you look good tonight. Your
Thank
background
you.
looks good, and you
Thank you.
sounded great, and it
Yes.
looks professional.
Yes.
Awesome.
Thank you. All right. Thanks very much.